You were introduced as the person in charge of legal and finance,
What?
weren't you?
Yeah.
Finance?
I don't know.
Well, so they say it in Spanish, right? Now,
I haven't.
finance. I'm wondering, where does something like Joomla get the funding?
Yeah, great question. We have 3 sources where the project gets most of their money. The first is, if you've been on the Joomla extensions directory, you'll notice that there's banner ads there. So every time somebody clicks on a banner ad, when they go to the Joomla extensions directory, which is a real high traffic, busy site, the Joomla project gets some money from it. We actually get, on average, $20,000 US per month from Google Ads. So source number 2 is the free demo site. If you go to on Joomla.org, there's a button on just about every page that says there's a free demo. And if you click on that button, you can get a free demo of Joomla for 30 days. At the end of that 30 days, you can zip up that website, take it with you, unzip it, and use it anywhere else you want. If you choose to convert to become a paid customer for the same service that hosted the free demo site, so you stay with that same, save with that same platform, Cloud Access is the vendor, then the project gets a portion of the revenue from those paid customers. So that's source number 2. The third source is that we go out and seek out and ask for financial sponsors for the project, and we have we've gotten over $100,000 in sponsorships this year, from different levels. Individuals can also make contributions to the Joomla project. There's a support Joomla little sideways link on Joomla.org. So that's, I'm going to say the project in 2012, we had a budget of about $600,000 to cover all expenses for the project, and almost all of it was covered from those 3 main sources. Good question. Thanks. Oh, also, we've got a publicly published budget that's available on the opensourcematters.org website. If anybody has questions about where the project's money is being spent, anything else about the finances, you can download a PDF version of the budget and our financial statements there. We're good. One down. Let's play musical panels. The shell game. Any other questions? You're not going to get to break for lunch any earlier. Questions. Might as well.
Recordarles que las preguntas no solamente tienen que ser con relación a lo que es Open Source Matters, sino que también pueden hacer preguntas respecto al Production Leadership Team, a la Open Source Matters en español o al Community Leadership Team. Cualquier consulta que tenga con respecto a código, a producción, a salidas de Joomla, a comunidades, a la familia de sitios Joomla, lo que ustedes necesiten saber de Joomla en total, este es el momento de preguntar.
Tengo una duda, si a quien pueda contestar. Nosotros hemos tenido que utilizar extensiones, ¿verdad? Por ejemplo, de Joomla Extensions y de otros lugares. ¿Qué tan confiables son? ¿Cómo puede uno saber que si no es un malware o no tiene, o sea, realmente no está bien la aplicación? Un plugin.
He's asking about extensions, how they can trust in the extension developer.
So I guess the question is how to know who to trust. for downloading an extension. That can be a little bit of a tricky question because with so many extensions in the extension directory and the fact that it's volunteer based, we can't personally guarantee each extension. So we recommend that while we do look over for obvious problems, obvious malware, or other problems in the extension, we recommend that you look at the reviews from other users, you check their support on their own website, and you can usually get a pretty good feel for the developer's dedication to their extension and their availability to offer assistance. Usually it's pretty easy to see quickly whether the developer is trusted or not. And oftentimes, personally, I'll recommend that you ask somebody else that you know and see who else has used that extension. I know that's something that I do even now when I look at new extensions, is I ask who's used it, what do you think of it, is the support good? In the Joomla community, a lot of emphasis is put on the relationships and on the developers. So it is a community where you should know one another, and then you can trust the work that they've done.
Sí, yo tenía una pregunta. ¿Cuáles serían los mejores sitios que han visto ustedes montados en Joomla, como para saber hasta dónde puede llegar este framework, verdad? ¿Cuáles son algunos ejemplos para que me mencionen algunos y así visitarlos y saber para sacarle el mayor jugo que se pueda, ¿va? Aquí en Guatemala decimos engasado, ¿va? Sitios engasados que ustedes hayan visto en Joomla.
He wants to know
A ver.
what do you consider the best websites with under Joomla CMS? It's a tricky question. Let me try. Okay. La verdad es que es un poco compleja la respuesta, considerando de que es una cosa de opiniones personales. No necesariamente lo que yo encuentre bonito, estético y bueno puede serlo para Leonel, para David o para Paul. Aún así, podemos sentar ciertas directrices de sitios que históricamente se han mantenido de forma muy estable dentro de lo que es Joomla. Por ejemplo, un ejemplo es el canal chilevisión.cl, que es un canal de televisión de Chile. Es un canal de televisión enorme con un sitio web gigante que tiene prácticamente... Está todavía en una versión antigua, por lo tanto usa secciones y categorías. Está seccionado y categorizado de tal forma que ingresas a un programa del canal de televisión y es un template, un layout, una descripción completa del sitio totalmente distinta cada vez que vas cambiando de programa. Ese, a mi juicio, es un muy buen sitio que te demuestra las capacidades que tenía Joomla desde sus comienzos prácticamente. McDonald's usa Joomla, Pizza Hut usa Joomla, MTV usa Joomla. O sea, son muchas las grandes corporaciones que utilizan Joomla como para poder decir este es bueno o este es el mejor. Claro, nosotros más que nada nos fijamos en los sitios que tengan estabilidad y permanencia en el tiempo y que no tengan grandes problemas en su desarrollo ni en su performance.
There's also the showcase directory.
Oh, sure, thanks. También hay dentro de la familia de sitios Joomla, tienes el showcase de Joomla, que es donde ves sitios desarrollados con Joomla que los mismos desarrolladores suben al portal Showcase y desde ahí se elige al mejor sitio que se sube durante el mes. Entonces ahí tienes un muy buen ejemplo también, porque te das cuenta el por qué se eligió ese sitio, bajo qué parámetros se midió para ser considerado el mejor del momento, etcétera. ¿No hay problema?
Yo tengo dos preguntas. Una es Moodle. Moodle lo puede hacer responsive. Si yo tengo una plataforma Moodle.
Oh, Moodle.
Ah, yeah.
Well, you know, so I don't have, I don't have specific knowledge about Moodle. I think the short answer is yes. Anything can be converted to be responsive. It's just a question of how much time and effort are you willing to, or is someone willing to put into that. Joomla's put in a significant amount of effort to make it fully responsive. I don't know about the Moodle team,
Yeah.
but even if they haven't, you could still, in principle, I'm sure, you could load up a template for Moodle that included, links to the Bootstrap framework or another responsive framework, and work around it that way.
Okay. Y mi otra pregunta sería, de acuerdo a su experiencia, a un equipo, ¿qué creerían ustedes que fuera un equipo bien formado para hacer sitios? O sea, si yo quiero formar un equipo de trabajo, ¿qué diferentes roles asignarían ustedes como muy importantes?
I guess this one is for Paul and for you. She wants to know what do you think is the appropriate kind of people to form a team to build websites. This is my working team. This do this person do that, this person do that. You will put the websites. You don't know.
So what would make up a good team for a company that's building websites? So if you're looking for a good team structure for creating websites and securing new business, typically what I've found to be good is to have someone that's actually handling the client interaction, meeting them, selling to them, and handling any questions that they have, and then a designer to handle the layouts and the look and feel of the website. Depending on how complex the project is, a developer is helpful for any time that there's going to be custom work that's necessary. But it's possible in some cases that a strong project manager would be able to handle that if the tools or if the components, extensions already exist. And if they already exist, then you might not necessarily need a developer on that particular project. From my experience in the past, having a developer on the project is helpful because you never know when something's going to come up. If it's a larger project, then a project manager is helpful because that keeps multiple developers and designers and the client informed as to where progress is, and if there's more information that's needed, getting that information from the client or giving information to the client from the developers, because oftentimes developers don't communicate very well. Usually that's going to make up a pretty good hands-on team. Obviously someone in the office for keeping the books and managing payments and things like that is also helpful. But typically it can be handled with a pretty small team, I'd say, and oftentimes you're wearing multiple hats. You're doing multiple jobs yourself. So you may be the designer and the client interface or the salesperson. So you don't necessarily have to have multiple people to do those jobs. When I started, I did all of them myself.
David, yesterday I tried to corner you, asking you about banners on responsive design. So when I got home, I started looking for information on the internet, and so anybody that's interested knows the IAB, the International Advertisement Bureau, has a set of standards, and I believe there's 3 sizes: the leaderboard, the white skyscraper, and it's a large rectangle.
It's the square.
Those are the those are the 3 that are used in responsive design.
Yes, and I think there may be a couple more that they've begun advocating for specifically on the mobile, because your leaderboard on mobile is different dimensions than your leaderboard on desktop. But yes, that's correct. Thank you.
El día de ayer estaban hablando mucho acerca de los sitios responsive. Y a mí me parece súper bien eso, pero quisiera saber cuándo recomiendan ustedes hacer un sitio totalmente para móvil y otro sitio que no, que es desktop. Yes, maybe I'll translate. Yesterday we were talking so much, sorry, about responsive websites, but I wanted to know what your recommendation is when doing a completely different site for mobile and one just for desktop.
So you can certainly create a completely different look for mobile. And there's a couple different options you have, whether you're creating it all within one template or creating multiple templates. And it depends really on where you want to put the code. You can certainly create multiple layouts within a template that is going to display only on mobile devices and then have complete control over the layout. Not necessarily responsive, more just a completely separate template or look and feel for mobile. In fact, the CRM that I wrote, Creamery, we ended up going that route because we felt on the mobile you didn't want the full experience, you wanted a very dedicated experience just for mobile. So we have a complete set of layouts that are unique to mobile, and we actually ended up using at this point jQuery mobile, so that you could have things like click to call, click to email, turn by turn Google directions, but laid out specifically for a mobile device, with the footer menu across the bottom that stays in place. We could have done it with a responsive template, but we chose to handle it through a separate set of files unique to the mobile interface.
Was this done because of like accessibility and connections, internet connection speeds and so on?
Not necessarily. We chose to do it that way because we wanted to deliver only part of the information, and we wanted to lay it out in a different layout than just a responsive, shrunken, different layout. We wanted a fully custom feel to a mobile application. But that is a good point, that when you switch to a completely different template for mobile, you do have the opportunity to decrease your size for faster page load speeds, and obviously for accessibility. There's certain aspects that the responsive elements you can improve upon if you're focusing purely on a mobile layout, so that your fat finger can hit it better than a mouse pointer. Yes.
So I think that's a really good question and a really good answer. Just something that I'll add to it is I think that responsive design is a big popular concept now, and it's a great concept. But I do think, kind of picking up from what David shared with the example that he gave with Creamery, that a good designer, a good site builder, a good website provider is going to be really thoughtful and careful about what you recommend for that, and a responsive design may not work best in all situations. And to me, the key is it's really important to be sure about what those users on different platforms want or don't want. And so I think the short answer of what I'm saying is it depends. And I think it's really important, if you're going to build a website for me, that you ask a lot of questions so that you be sure you understand who my users are and what they want. And David's users may want one set of content on the mobile device that they don't care about when they're on their desktops, but a different client, a different website, a different information they want may want exactly that same information. So you need to be, I think a good service that you provide in building websites isn't to try to take a one-size-fits-all approach, but to really listen and to ask questions and to understand what those users are and what their needs are before you move forward.
So from a take on this last question and answer, if you go the separate design for mobile and desktop, how do you manage that from the website? I mean, can Joomla do it? And is it just the template that changes, or how does the the website recognizes what are you on when you're looking at the website.
I was going to ask exactly the same thing. Sir. Yes. I was thinking that yesterday you mentioned that you can choose to hide some stuff in your responsive design, but that doesn't mean that the server side doesn't run it in the background. So I was thinking that maybe on the next Joomla version, there could be a little checkbox or something that would say display on mobile or not display on mobile, so that we can choose what to hide. Can that be done now?
It's a good question. The problem would be that so many it's really up to the template. And if the template chooses not to include responsive elements or take advantage of mobile versus desktop, then you have a checkbox that's not doing anything. And then you'd have an end user that clicks the checkbox to hide mobile and it doesn't hide. So the option is so much dependent on the template that's being used that it's difficult for the CMS to control that on the CMS side. In answer to the other question about well, how do you check that? If you were to, there's so many different functions out there. There's classes that you can just grab an entire class instance that you can just run a single line that says is mobile, and it checks yes or no, and it checks it specifically against the user agent that's accessing the site, so you know exactly what device that they are on, and then you could appropriate them to the correct template layouts within your template file. So it would involve a little bit of coding.
So just to pick up on that, one other little wrinkle is that if you use that user agent tag parameter to define what template to display, one of the issues with that is that there's literally hundreds of different user agents that are, some of them are tied specifically to the make, model, manufacturer of a smartphone, for example. And every year, every month, there's new devices that are coming out, right? And so I think that's one of the nice things about the responsive design concept, is it doesn't really care about the user agent. All it cares about is what the width of your browser is. And so it simplifies that part of it. There's services that'll keep you constantly updated with what different user agents are coming into existence, and so that's another thing that is out there and is available. But that's one of the things that I really do like about responsive design, is you don't have to hassle with keeping up with what all the different user agents are.
Bueno, buenos días. Creo que algo de lo que no hemos hablado y sé que vamos a hablar después es un poco de seguridad. Con respecto a esto de la seguridad, he visto que Joomla, conforme ha ido desarrollando mejorando su framework, he visto que han implementado nuevas estrategias de seguridad, se ha mejorado el SSL y se ha hecho más fácil implementarlo. Pero creo que tal vez algo que sería interesante ver en las nuevas versiones de Joomla, tal vez en la 3.5 ya estable, sería una verificación de 2 pasos. Hemos visto, y no sé si ustedes se han dado cuenta, pero que grandes cuentas de Twitter han sido hackeadas por no contar con esta verificación. Y creo que hay cosas que tal vez no se ha explotado igual, vulnerabilidades, pero sería un buen desarrollo implementar seguridad de doble vía en las cuentas de super administrador de Joomla. No sé qué piensan ustedes al respecto de esto.
Sí.
As far as authentication goes with Joomla, we actually have a couple different options that are available in the admin panel. You don't have to use the Joomla authentication. You can use OAuth. There are other opportunities to log in, so you can actually do a 2-step already. you don't have to use the Joomla authentication process. So that would be the short answer.
Yo tengo una pregunta un poco fuerte. Tengo una gran duda desde que conocí Joomla, ¿verdad? Mi duda es, ¿alguna vez Joomla podría ser portado a otro idioma que no sea PHP? No tengo nada contra PHP, es un lenguaje muy bueno, pero existen comunidades, por ejemplo Java, que son comunidades enormes que podrían aportar bastante conocimiento en cuanto a los módulos y todo eso. ¿Alguna vez podría Joomla portarse a Java, por ejemplo?
That is a strong question. In most instances, PHP has been what we've always been built on. It's a very strong and open and flexible framework. In fact, if we look at a use case like Facebook, they used PHP for many, many years before finally switching over to a C-based application. I think it was C-based. And along the way, they wrote a version, a compiled version of PHP. So even before they went to a full different language, they wrote their own that would compile, but it would still be PHP. So looking at the size of Facebook and what they're doing, at this point, I don't know if I foresee in the near future any real need or benefit to porting to a different programming language. At this point, the PHP community is pretty well supported and is growing quite rapidly, and there's new features being available all the time. So who knows, in the future, maybe Ruby on Rails will be something that we'd look at. But no, right now everything is PHP driven.
Thank you.
Yes.
¿Alguien más tiene alguna consulta?
Buenos días. Básicamente es una pregunta sobre un proyecto que tengo ahorita, es un reto que me pusieron. Necesito hacer una biblioteca de videos, entonces lo único es de que los videos que me quieren subir no quieren publicarlos, por ejemplo, en YouTube y después solo ponerlos embebido en Joomla, ¿verdad? Entonces mi pregunta era si Joomla sí no tiene ningún problema al tener bastante contenido, en este caso videos, si vaya a tener algún problema. Si ustedes me pudieran dar alguna recomendación que debería tomar muy en cuenta, aparte del hosting, ¿verdad? Claro.
Fíjate que yo en un sitio que desarrollé hice eso. La verdad no fueron muchos sitios, fueron muchos videos, fueron más fotos que videos al final. Pero realmente no hay ningún problema. Lo que tienes que hacer es buscar un reproductor, que va a ser un plugin que te reproduce el video. Entonces eso es lo que hice yo. Finalmente fue crear artículos donde embebía este plugin, que lo que hacía era leer el video que estaba grabado en mi hosting. Entonces si hablamos de un hosting, un intranet por citar, si fuese el caso, no hay ningún problema de ancho de banda ni similares porque estás en local. Pero si ya estás hablando de que vas a salir a la WAN o al internet, tienes que tener mucho cuidado con el ancho de banda por el alto consumo que te van a generar, pero ya se convierte en una respuesta de infraestructura más que de Joomla. Joomla te va a dejar correr y pasar siempre y cuando tu infraestructura lo soporte, pero Joomla no te va a dar ningún problema con eso.
Buenos días. Una consulta. Quería saber si se tiene proyectado agregar dentro del soporte para manejadores de base de datos otros adicionales a los que actualmente hay, como MySQL y no sé cuál fue la otra que mencionaron, pero por ejemplo poder utilizar Oracle o algún otro manejador.
Is this something you're experienced in? Would you like to help us add more? We can certainly. Ayud?
Actualmente tenemos 4, que es MySQL, MySQL, SQL Server y Postgres. Entonces es lo que dice Oracle, ¿sí? Y Oracle. Pero si tienes experiencia, nos sirven un par de manos más para terminar.
Yo había entendido que era 2, digamos, así que podíamos escoger, digamos.
Pues ahorita puedes hacerlo. Yo personalmente nunca lo he hecho más que en MySQL, pero sí se puede hacer en SQL Server, Postgres y en Oracle. Eso es lo que está confirmando David. Y también se puede hacer en Oracle.
Esto no es algo, digamos, o sea, ¿cómo es la configuración de esa parte?
How do you install Joomla with SQL Server, for example? Because in the installing menu you have only MySQL. How you do that?
So it's not in the drop down, but if you look in the files, there's an install.sql for SQL Server.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more manual for SQL Server because of the way that structure is set up. It can't be automated.
For example, SQL, I think he wanted to make it in Oracle. How do you do in Oracle?
Oracle, I don't know if he'll understand me. Oracle.
¿Cómo estás con el inglés? Okay. Okay.
So Oracle's a bit harder because there are some differences in the way that the database calls are structured, and we have the database driver for Oracle present, and like I worked on yesterday with Pepe, yeah, we were able to do that to retrieve data from Oracle, but the core components that are in Joomla, com content, com contact, com web links, they don't all have the correct queries that can be run by Oracle. So there's some problem there if you try to run Joomla on Oracle directly. The database drivers allow you to get data from Oracle and push data into Oracle, but not necessarily perhaps run an entire Joomla installation on Oracle. It's something that we're actively wanting to expand and increase our usage. So we're actively looking for people that are familiar with that and can help. We definitely want more volunteers that have expertise in areas that we don't have current support for. We're certainly open to adding all sorts of database drivers and full support for them.
So, David, I got a follow-up question for you. So, let's say I'm a user who wants to take that example and install Joomla with MS SQL Server. It's not in the drop-down. So if I'm going through that installation process and I get to the database configuration step, what happens then, and how do I go ahead and finish my installation of Joomla with MS SQL Server?
So the quickest way that we did that yesterday with Pepe, we just set up MySQL just so we could configure through the end of the installation, and then at the end you've generated a configuration.php file which you can then edit and change your database structure. So in the configuration.php it says db type, db user, db pass, db host. You could then go in and change that appropriately for MS SQL. And at that point then you would be basically, if you're wanting to use the installer process, you have to have a valid MySQL or SQLi to just get through to the next step. So.
And so would the if you were using Postgres, would the process be essentially the same?
Same for Postgres, same for any of the, if you look in the installation folder, when installing Joomla, if you look in the folder itself, you'll see the different SQL files and types that are available that you can use, and then you can just manually run those on your database.
I have a question, a different subject. Our business based in North America is seeing increasing demand for Joomla skilled developers. We hire people around the world, not just in North America, but I'm curious in particular, is there a marketplace in the Joomla community for, you know, Joomla skilled resources, not just independent resources, but also companies for partnerships, things like that?
I'm very glad you asked that question. We have a team that's in place that's currently revamping and recreating resources.joomla.org. If you go there now, there are resources there, but we have a team in place, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to help them, and we're actually revamping and relaunching that with a completely fresh look so that both companies and individuals may have profiles. We're exploring the possibility of reviews and ratings and different aspects because we see that as a common need that others, we'd love to be able to promote and encourage other Joomla companies and individuals and give them a little bit of a spotlight and make it easier for people to find each other.
Thanks for your questions. Hope it was helpful. I want to encourage you from the time that we have left this afternoon, if you think of other questions, you know, find and if especially if you're not comfortable with the language difference, then Guillermo, Lionel, Manuel has also volunteered to help with translating things. Last year, I was at Joomla Day Guatemala and took it. Last year, I was at Joomla Day. I'm Colombia. Sorry. Thanks. And had a similar question and answer session. A couple of things that came out of that session were requests for better documentation in Spanish, and also requests for a certification program so that people who were just getting started out with Joomla could have a way to kind of prove their skill level, at least to some expertise, to clients. Both of those initiatives are included in our project's overall goals for 2013. Lionel is working directly on the certification program. So when we say we're here to listen and we're interested in your questions and your thoughts and stuff, we mean it. And we still have time this afternoon if you have more. You have our email addresses too. And so, you know, really hope you'll take advantage of, you know, whatever time we have left to ask any more questions. Last thing I want to say is, I hope I'm not going to forget any, but we've recognized the events organizing team. We've recognized and you know, thank the you know, the diversity aspect and element and recognizing the women that are here today. Also want to take a step specifically to thank our sponsors who helped keep the price of this event low so that more could come, and help, you know, provide the coffee breaks and the meeting space and all the other nice things that we have. So thanks to Galileo, Universidad, Red Component, Microsoft, ACL Manager, and OS Training, Joomla Shack, for sponsoring this event and showing your support for the Joomla community here in Guatemala. That's really appreciated, and thanks for helping make this possible. That's all I have.
gracias. Ahora vamos a pasar al tiempo para el almuerzo. Será de 1 hora. Estamos acá comenzando de nuevo a las 2 de la tarde.